Well, hello, friends. David Nuno here, TexAgs Rewind, presented by Yeti. So we actually shot a intro earlier, and I gave Nick a lot of props on how sharp that graphic behind me looks. But I feel, Nick, at this point, it'd be kind of weird to talk about it again because we already talked about it.
Yeah, you've already given your compliments, and I've already ruined it once, so we can just,
So I really enjoyed Chad Withrow on the show. What did you think?
Yeah, he was awesome. You got a lot out of him, all kinds of different perspectives. I also enjoyed little Billy Liucci. He was on the show as well.
Billy was on the show at a party, it felt like, at a rave party, but he says he was at Barton Springs. That was cool, though. We talked about everything with Billy as well. And we had Olin Buchanan on the program, believe it or not. Olin had some good stuff.
Yeah, you're talking about the NFL draft, the first round, kind of recapped it. Hopefully we see some Aggies go. I think we will today, maybe one or two. Who knows?
I hope so. And that and more here on this version of the TexAgs Rewind. Bryce Young goes number 1. No surprise there. C.J. Stroud, number 2. Not really a surprise, but a surprise with the way the smoke signals came out the last couple days. And then I'd say the surprise, Will Anderson, again, to the Texans. So
I thought the Texans were outstanding, what they did yesterday. I'm not a Texans fan, so this is not, somebody jumping on a bandwagon type thing and seeing things through.
You just thought they had a good day? Yeah.
All right, needed a quarterback. Okay, you got one. I think C.J. Stroud, to me, I'm not an expert at it. He looks pretty good.
He looks pretty good, yeah.
And then
he makes sense at number 2 with this class.
Right. And then you come back, though, and you make the move to get Will Anderson, who I think it's been pretty much a consensus, maybe not a complete consensus, but a general consensus that he's the top defensive player. Mm-hmm. So you got a pass rusher on top of that.
D'Amico wanted a pass rusher.
What does it cost you? The first pick in the second round and some stuff next year?
And a first-round pick next year. But they have another first-rounder next year as well.
So,
and it's a lot of compensation. But you answered 2 questions. You wanted your defensive captain. You wanted your offensive captain. And you got those with the second and third pick. And by the way, you used, I believe, if I remember correctly, the 12th pick in this draft that they traded back to Arizona, who then traded up, was what you got in compensation for the Deshaun Watson trade. So, had you taken Will Anderson at number 2, I think Arizona would have had a lot more suitors for the number 3 pick because people wanted C.J. Stroud, and then you're not guaranteed. So you got your quarterback, and you knew whoever was going to trade for Arizona was looking for a quarterback. You get your guy that way as well.
Yeah, they had an outstanding draft. Now, at least on paper.
On paper, yeah.
Yeah, we got to see him play. If Will Anderson turns out to be the player that everybody projects him to be, you look like a genius.
Can I start? Actually?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Last night was, and I hope I'm not being hyperbolic or you don't think I'm being overly dramatic. That was one of the worst performances from a strike throwing standpoint that I've seen from Texas A&M and at a college baseball level in a long, long time. 14 walks is a school record. They now have 4 of the 7 runs that Arkansas scored last night reached via the walk. 2 of them obviously on home runs and the other on that infield single that Jack Moss had to backhand where Troy Ronsing wasn't covering first base. So 14 walks led to that. And it could have been so much worse. Bronny, you pointed that out in the game thread. Arkansas stranded 15 men last night, and A&M only lost to the top 7 team on the road by 2 runs. Could have been so much worse. But that game, those number of walks, man, it's hard to win games like that. And unfortunately, I mean, that's a high watermark, but this pitching staff has been historically bad from a strike throwing perspective. And no, that's not being hyperbolic either. Through 42 games, this team has now walked 215 batters. For a reference point, last year's pitching staff, which I don't think was great, they got the job done and they got them to the Final Four in Omaha. They walked 220 batters
all year
in 64 games. So that's quick math. That's 22 more games, right?
They may reach that number tonight.
Unfortunately, they might reach the program record. 1987, they walked 280 batters. Through 42 games, this baseball team has walked about 5.2 batters per game.
And when you add the hit by pitches,
yeah, we're not even adding hit by pitches. We're just talking about straight walks. If they walk 5 batters a game, just for the regular season, just for the remaining 13 games they have to play before Hoover, before an NCAA regional if they get there, they're going to set the program record.
They've been saying about A-Chain, and not just the lower level scouts, but even on up to some assistant GM types. I know, like he looked like as they described him, second, third round pick, and that was going back to his freshman year when he was doing what he was doing against in the bowl game. I remember having a specific conversation with somebody prior to the Alabama game, his sophomore season, and they never quite got up there in the first round. There's zero doubt in any of their minds that he's going to be a really successful pro, and that most teams, if given the chance, would love to have him because of his versatility, because of the way he can run, because of. I think he's going to be a steal, and he might be the steal of the draft in the third round. I think he's a steal in the second because of what he can do and how electric he is. But they never really went in on him being a first rounder. I think part of it was, he's small, but when I saw him at the spring game, man, he looked like he'd added 5, 6, 7 pounds of muscle. Like his upper body looked bigger than I'd ever seen it. I mean, he's certainly working hard, but at the end of the day, I think that the lack of, kind of prototypical mass, size, it's not going to hurt him that bad, but it just keeps you from being that first round. I know Jahmyr Gibbs is a short dude. He's not a little dude. And, he's muscled up. And you watch him when they played last year. So I think it's just that with A-Chain. He was always going to be second, third round, which is nothing at all wrong with that. He's going to play a long time. I think he's going to be a steal. But I think, like you said, after the way the first round went, I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't see him go in round 2 today, because you've got to be looking at your board going, who are some of the best players in college football left? And when you talk about skill guys, that's a very short list before you get to Devon Achane.
Who's got the better quarterback room? They've got more guys at Alabama, no doubt, but I see the upside of Connor Wigman and Max Johnson at A&M, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there's a higher possibility with the A&M quarterback room.
Yeah, it's to me it's weighted, right? It's the starting quarterback. I'm going to weight it a lot heavier when I'm talking about a room with a starting quarterback. So there are some questions. Max Johnson, from all accounts that I've read, and a lot better than I do, was probably the better quarterback in spring, or may have been. And I want Connor Wigman to be the starter from what I saw at the end of last year. I wish it was just his job, no question about it. And he wasn't being pushed at all from Max Johnson. I'd feel a lot more confident about saying Texas A&M has the better room if I felt more confident about Connor Wigman absolutely being the guy and not being pushed at all by Max Johnson. I have to see Tyler Buckner and what he brings to the table with Alabama to really answer that question. I'm going to kind of cop out right now and say, based on what we've seen, it's a tie, but it's only a tie because of Buckner. If it was Simpson and Milroe, and those are the two options versus Johnson and Wigman, I would give the edge to Texas A&M as having the better quarterback room with those two guys versus the two guys at Alabama. But now the wild card is Notre Dame's quarterback is coming down to Tuscaloosa to play for his former offensive coordinator, which could make that a better room, but time will tell.
We're going to close it out, ladies and gentlemen, and you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Anything I forget, Nick?
You got to share with your friends. You got to subscribe to TexAgs, and that's about it.
What's your shirt say? World Series champs? Is that what it says?
Yeah, Astros.
Oh, go Stros. It was kind of dark in there because you refused to put a light on.
It is a dungeon, yeah. Sorry.
And, hey, Richard, how you doing? All right, that's going to do it for Rewind. See ya.